Hey everybody, very good morning and welcome to the Lenovo breakout session powering the next gen AI innovation with Azure Local. My name is Jayanth. I'm the Alliance BDM for Microsoft at Lenovo. I'm also a 3 times Microsoft MVP for Azure Hybrid and Azure AI services. Now, before we dive into the panel discussion, let's try and set the stage in terms of how the IT landscape is evolving today. Given the evolving changes around how the countries are going through geopolitical tensions, many countries are kind of putting very stringent regulations and regulations around how the data is stored and managed today. And this in turn is actually forcing many of our customers and organizations to kind of rethink about their IT strategy. AI today is increasing its influence on business decisions, and customers are demanding new AI capabilities on premises. And the conversation today, we are seeing that it's slowly shifting from cloud first to hybrid for better flexibility and control. Interestingly, according to Flexera State of the Cloud Report 2025, about 86% of the organizations today have a multi-cloud strategy, and out of which about 70% of them have a hybrid cloud strategy. Now, given the changing landscape in the IT industry today, as part of the agenda, we're going to be focusing on what's top of mind for customers navigating through this change, and how Lenovo and Microsoft are partnering together to help. It's also worth mentioning that Lenovo-Microsoft partnership dates back to about 2 decades, and Lenovo has been awarded the Device Partner of the Year 2024 and has bagged all of the 6 prestigious partner designations under the Microsoft AI and Cloud Partner Programs. So, there's a lot of exciting stuff that's coming, right? So, but last but not the least, we will also hear directly from Kavli, one of Lenovo's customers from Norway, about their experience in implementing Azure Hybrid across their organizations. So with that, we'll probably kick off with the round of panel discussions. I'll probably start with you, Evan.
Thank you. My name is Evan, and I'm a group infrastructure manager at Kavli.
Fascinating. Thank you so much, Evan, and very warm welcome. And first of all, thank you so much for coming all the way from Norway to join us here today at Microsoft Ignite. Meena?
Right. I'm 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗏. I lead the product management for Azure Local and our sovereign private cloud strategy. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Welcome, Meena, and thanks for being here. And Stuart?
Hey, good morning. I'm Stuart Mcrae. I manage the Lenovo storage product organization, which is everything storage at Lenovo, from high-end arrays to our Azure Local solutions. Thank you for coming.
Welcome, Stuart. Stuart, I'll probably start with you. What's top of mind for customers navigating through this change?
Yeah, good question. I think, and probably I'll approach it more from a storage data perspective, but this is a really dynamic time in the industry, as I think we all know. There's lots of changes going on. When I talk about with customers, there's really 3 areas that we see. One is just their virtualization environment is moving from a very, what I'll call a homogeneous environment to a very heterogeneous environment where they're looking at new options for their virtualization, like Hyper-V, as well as how they containerize their applications. So that's a big deal for customers and driving a lot of thought and change. 2 is hybrid cloud. As Jay said, the move to hybrid cloud continues, and that requires changes in customers' infrastructures and their approach to their architecture. And then the third, which is kind of why we're all here this week, a lot is AI, right? And like in the enterprise environment, that is really starting to pop for a lot of customers and how they get ready for that. So when we look at those 3, there's some commonality across all of it, but it really calls for a transformation and modernization of their infrastructure. And when they do that, the things they talk about is one is like the complexity of their environment, right? With data growth, new applications, new programming models, that adds complexity. They're looking for simplicity in their infrastructure and their approach. Next, and probably what I hear the most is security. Like security is the #1 thing for their environment and for their data. And when they think about AI, there's a recent IDC study on data that says the number one thing customers are considering and concerned about when they're deploying AI models is their data security, because that data, when you get into the enterprise space, that is their data, right? And so they have to treat it just like the rest of their data. And security is a little bit multifold. Obviously, it's malware and ransomware protection, super important. About 40+% of businesses have been impacted by that. One is the sovereignty of that data, having the data where it's supposed to be, when it's supposed to be there. And the other one's not so much security, but resilience, but I'll group it into there of like things that a lot of IT groups didn't think about maybe 5 to 10 years ago, is resiliency from natural disasters, power brownouts, and those type of events. And then as all that, they want to leverage the infrastructure they have, right? They've made investment in their people and their resources and all the infrastructure. How they manage that through change, because as they move to AI, they know change is coming, but they want to manage all of those three. And AI, I think, is, from an enterprise perspective, just starting to happen, especially on the data side. And when I think about, through my career, what has to happen to have that big of a change, I always kind of group it into 3 areas. One, it's got to be easy, right? Everyone's super busy, 24/7 running your IT organization. Change has to be as easy as possible. Second, it has to be compatible with your infrastructure, right? And so if something like AI requires a complete rip and replace of your hardware and software infrastructure, it's not going to happen fast, right? It's going to take time. And the third, it's got to be affordable and or a really good ROI. And I think a lot of entities are struggling with that ROI right now. But I think those are the 3 challenges and part of what we're partnering with Microsoft to deliver on those.
Meena, I'm going to flip over to you. From Microsoft perspective, what are you hearing from customers?
Yeah, I think it's very much in line with what Stuart just shared. We've been working with our customers for a very long time, and at least in the past few years, the consistent message that we hear from them is about, like, they have a pretty broad digital estate, like whether they're writing IoT devices, edge devices, some of them are multi-cloud users, they have distributed edge locations, and each of them run in different technologies. And there's data being generated as part of all this digital estate, but because they all run in so many different technologies, it's hard to bring in that data. All these customers are kind of functioning in silos and not able to bring in efficiencies of all that data to improve productivity. So they've been earning to get that consolidation or simplification to manage all these digital estate. So that has been an ongoing feedback that we hear from customers. With all this digital estate comes that need to modernize and migrate to a simpler solution. And when they want to modernize and migrate to a simpler solution, they want to be able to bring that data with them, because that is the true asset for their business, how they create differentiation for their customers. Yep. And so how do they bring, and then they all have invested in some top of storage in their on-prem, so they want to be able to bring that capability with this innovation and modernization that they're doing. And then in the last few months, at least this year, we've seen a tremendous growth in customers' need and desire to have a sovereign strategy for them, especially for customers who are outside of the US. As much as they love and embrace Microsoft Azure as a cloud provider and the capabilities and innovation we're bringing in, they also want to be ensured that their critical infrastructure does not suffer should there be any sort of disruption to the cloud connectivity. So being able to have that resiliency on-prem through the lens of sovereignty and having that operation control has been top of mind for our customers. And then the next thing I would say is, everybody wants to be front and center with the AI innovation that is meaningful for their end users. And so how can our customers leverage the technologies and innovation that we're bringing in so that they can provide the right AI acceleration for their end users? So these are the common themes of feedback that we hear from our customers.
That's amazing. I mean, you kind of touched upon the key evolving requirements that are day-to-day in the field. But what's also important today is a deeper hardware and software integrations, which in turn means that it kind of translates to deeper collaboration between the companies, like, for example, Lenovo and Microsoft engineers working together. So what are your thoughts around the Lenovo-Microsoft partnership?
Yeah, I think you touched on that during the intro. Lenovo and Microsoft, we've been working together for, I don't know, more than 2 decades, I mean, since the Windows Server world.
Yeah.
And there's already a very solid foundation we have between the Microsoft and Lenovo partnership. And as part of Azure Local, we have been evolving our product capabilities and bringing in more collaboration with OEM partners. And when we kind of put in that co-engineering needs in order for customers to get a full stack solution, Lenovo was right there with us from day one. And I am just so deeply appreciative of the trust your organization has had to partner with us right from day one. We built in this Premier Solutions tier, which is our continuous integration and validation tier, that customers get a full stack solution, like even though they buy the hardware from Lenovo, they can use the solution with the trust that this is through that partnership. And that is huge to be able to get that. And then in addition to all of that, I mean, we're also able to bring some of Lenovo's capabilities into our customers' ecosystem. So that's, it really opens up the possibility.
Absolutely. And Stuart, what do you have to say about Lenovo-Microsoft partnership?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Amiya. I mean, I think it's a great partnership, a long-term partnership. Our development center for Microsoft Technologies is located in Kirkland, so we have that direct touch with them. And beyond the partnership, I think our strategies are very complementary. And if you think about Lenovo, we span, from an infrastructure perspective, the whole horizon, from PCs, the #1 PC manufacturer in the world, to data center for compute and storage, to cloud providers for the largest cloud providers in the world. So, and I think the same from an infrastructure perspective, when we look at Microsoft, they are like our best strategic partner for that, because they stretch the whole end-to-end as well, from the device you're using and you're consuming your AI on, with your PC, to the data center, to the edge devices. So I think from that perspective, we're very aligned in not only partnership, but in our strategy of what we want to do for customers. And I think from an AI perspective, like, they are the best strategic partner. One of the things, in talking with data on customers and how they're going to evolve to AI is getting their data ready, right? They want to bring models in, they've got all this data, but like data conditioning, data tagging, getting that ready to consume. Like, I fundamentally believe that that's going to be hard from an outside in, but Microsoft already, if you're already in an environment, they already have like your data structure, they already have that in the applications and the data you're storing. So they're best positioned to turn that data into actionable insights. So that's why I think they make us a good partner. And like in our development, we're really focused on what I'll call, day-to-day, making the best recipes, making the lifecycle management that makes it easy for you and your teams to deploy that technology. And I like to say we try to do the 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗶𝗸𝗀 work, the low-level stuff that makes it easy, so our solutions upward integrate into Azure Local and the consoles, so it frees your time and your team's time to focus on adding more value in your solutions.
That's amazing. I can already see the collaboration between Microsoft and Lenovo. Even in this room, you guys are sitting close to each other. So that's great.
It choked me up a little bit when I was talking about it.
All right. Switching over, Evan, can you tell us about Kavli? I think a lot of us are really waiting for you to kind of know what's Kavli.
Yeah. Kavli is a company with history and traditions. We just recently celebrated 100 years.
That's amazing.
We are a food producer with production facilities in Norway, Sweden, and UK. We have 7 factories in total, whereas 2 are dairies. And we produce a wide range of products, like I can mention spreadable cheese, ketchup, mustard, fresh milk, yogurt, and so on. We have a unique ownership in the Kavli Trust, and actually all our profit goes to good causes. Let's watch a movie showing one of our production lines. You can see tubes getting filled with spreadable cheese, quality inspections happening down the line, products getting weight, X-rayed, and yeah, at the end labeled and ready for distribution.
That's mouth-watering stuff. All right, so now you have actually implemented Azure Local with Lenovo ThinkAgile MX hardware. What led you down this path, and what were you hoping to achieve?
Yeah, I can mention a few. We were facing legacy and end of support hardware, and we needed to refresh existing IT platforms. This comes also with a good opportunity for us to evaluate existing virtual hypervisor environment and our hybrid cloud approach. Second, I can mention that we have seen the need for a partner to help us govern and monitor these platforms. Historically, we have solved this ourselves with our rather lean IT department, and now we are looking into having a partner. Lastly, I want to mention new regulations. At least in Europe, we have the NIS2 directive coming up, and this is something that requires certain cybersecurity measures to be in place. It's somewhat similar to GDPR. If you fail to comply with the requirements, then it can result in fines. So we wanted to achieve a future-proof, secure, scalable solution that fits our needs today, but also tomorrow.
That's nice. So just to summarize, it's kind of, you had the legacy hardware, very lean IT, and then security was top of mind because you need to comply with NIS2, and you were also forward-looking. Basically, you're looking at scalable, flexible infrastructure. That's nice. Now, how did Lenovo and Microsoft came together to help you?
Yeah, we brought in Lenovo and your expertise in IT infrastructure, and we together concluded to refresh our hardware with Lenovo certified Azure Local nodes. Also concluded that we should change existing hypervisor environment to run Azure Local on top of the new hardware. As part of this project, we also introduced implementation professional services from Lenovo for implementation and also monitoring and governing going forward. It's now, in total, it's now easy for us to utilize Azure cloud services also on our on-prem environments. I feel we have a good on-prem landing zone with Azure Local now, and also a strong partnership with Lenovo.
That's great to hear. So Stuart, today AI workloads are increasing. There is a massive demand for scalable storage. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, good question. And I want to thank Evan for his partnership in business, because it's working with those customers of how we make our solutions better. Again, I'll take it back to the the things I talked about, that what's driving the change is the virtualization changes, hybrid cloud, and now the move to AI, and that's driving a transformation. Today, we've had the ThinkAgile MX, which is our Azure Local platform, clustered platform to deliver Azure Local on-prem. We've had multiple generations of that product, and really all around making that simple, secure, resilient, and easy to deploy and manage on-prem. And that runs the entire Azure Local stack. So we've been super happy about that, working with Evan and lots of other customers on that. But we're at a little bit of a turning point now, I think, when we think about customers' IT environment, because that's not enough, right? Now, as they change their virtualization landscape, as they plan for AI, they have to harness a much bigger amount of data on their local enterprise. And until now, Azure Local has mainly been focused on just that local data on the device. And so when you think about, as you're going to AI, data is super critical, right? I mean, when you deploy a model, when you deploy your inferencing, you want to get a competitive advantage. You want to, serve your customers better and have a competitive advantage. If you're thinking about the competitive advantage, like the GPUs you deploy are going to be the same as really your competitors, right? The models you deploy are probably going to be very similar or the same as who you're competing against. But your data in your enterprise, your data about your business, your data about your customers that you've collected, that's really your differentiation. That is your way to have a better outcome in your AI, inferencing, and RAG, and agentic AI. So I think that's super important. We view that as really, that's your IP. You have to utilize that. And for us, like one of our mantras is bringing AI to your data, right? I think that's super important because you're not going to bring all of your AI, you're not going to bring your data all to your AI, right, for various reasons. Sovereignty of data, ability to move that much data, security of your data for some of your data sources. And so that's really important, and that's why we're enabling Azure Local with this aggregated storage. So I think for us, we're really excited about this. Providing storage scalability and connectivity to Azure Local to really scale to multiple petabytes, to tens of petabytes. And for us, that's our Lenovo Think System storage products, DM, DG, DS, which provides unified storage, high-performance block storage, scalable to tens of petabytes, resilient, high value, that comes with integrated ransomware protection. And doing this with Azure Local, then it offloads some of the capabilities, some of the functions that you would do on Azure Local for managing your data, providing snapshot capabilities, data efficiency that just frees more compute to run your models and to run your applications. And the great thing about it is that now it gives you visibility of all that data through your Azure Local console. So again, the goal is always to make that simple and easy to do and to get you ready for AI on that. So for us, I think this is a big deal in your journey to AI. And then again, benefits, providing that data simplifies your virtualization, and it modernizes it. So for customers that have Lenovo storage, you harness all that data, right? There's no rip and replace, you're ready to go. A lot of customers don't have the storage in place. So according to IDC, 80% of the storage deployed in the last 5 years was hard drive-based storage. So if you think about it, hard drive-based storage, super reliable, good, we do a lot of it, but it's not really going to give you the performance and the capability you need to broadly deploy AI. Because today a lot of flash is on your primary storage, but to deploy AI across a bigger and bigger data set, you want to really be able to address your secondary storage or tertiary storage. And so like modernizing that with modern flash, like the Think System storage products, we think is paramount for customers. So we talked about data. I think that's one of the most important things for AI. You heard a lot about it today or this week in other sessions. But data's not alone, right? You have to have performance. And so the other big thing we're announcing is the addition of NVIDIA RTX Pro 6000 to our ThinkAgile MX products with Azure Local to give you the latest, greatest performance from your GPU perspective. And so this is great, up to two 6000s per server. You can scale that from a cluster perspective. So you're getting the latest, greatest NVIDIA performance to drive your AI models. And then the third is making it sustainable, right? And so we've expanded what we call our Neptune liquid cooling to all of our ThinkAgile MX products. Now, I think in the keynote you heard about in other sessions, like one of the big things about deploying AI is the electricity it consumes, the heat it generates, which requires more cooling. And I think in the keynote, like the biggest data center that Microsoft has, completely plumbed with water. When you're in the industry, when you hear, people are announcing AI, not on like MIPS or performance, but how many megawatts it requires. So Azure Local with MX is not a megawatt, but still the power consumption is real there because the CPUs are bigger and more power consuming, the GPUs are bigger and more power consuming. So Neptune liquid cooling is our water-cooled solution that goes down to our MX products, which are industry standard Intel x86 products. And there's two modes for this. One is open loop liquid cooling, so if you have water plumbed in your data center to run to that, then it does the ultimate in cooling the CPU and GPU. The other one is what we call closed loop. So closed loop is self-contained. You don't have to have water run into the rack or to the device, but you still get about 25% performance in power and cooling in that, which is a good money saver, and it helps free up that power for other parts on your infrastructure. And that closed loop design, all of that we developed on the largest supercomputers in the world. One of the things that we're really strong in is high performance computing, and so liquid cooling has been like a big thing in that for about the past 8+ years. So we've taken that technology and packaged it to bring it down to this level. So I think, for us, addressing the data concerns with our expanded disaggregated storage, the latest, greatest CPU or GPU compute power, and making it sustainable with advanced liquid cooling, we're obviously very proud of.
Well, personally for me, that's a goosebump moment because I've been hearing so many customers asking about, we need external storage support for Azure Local. I think it's a great announcement. Thank you, Stuart. Now, considering the brand new capabilities that we're adding for Azure Local, from Microsoft perspective, how does it align with a broader vision for Azure Local and hybrid cloud innovation in general?
Yeah, I mean, as you pointed out, like Azure Local was historically a hyper-converged solution, and as part of having conversations with customers who want to migrate and modernize, this need and desire to bring along their data and their on-prem external storage was almost like a critical decision-making factor. So we had to take that feedback, and it was only natural for us to collaborate with Lenovo and kind of make that happen. And we're very excited about the possibility now. Azure Local supports Lenovo ThinkSystem, and so this really opens up a huge opportunity for our customers to embrace Azure and Azure Local. So that's awesome. And then built on that foundation, with the partnership between Microsoft and Lenovo, we bring in the AI infrastructure innovation with capabilities like the NVIDIA RTX GPU. Yep. But that is just I call them as like the foundation layer, right? Because on top of that, the possibilities are just endless. Like now you can bring the innovation that Azure is making in the AI space and NVIDIA is making in the AI space to run on that infrastructure. So you can think about, now we have the ability to run a pretty broad range of generative AI and large language models from the Foundry catalog, the AI Foundry catalog, to run on top of Azure Local. So you no longer now need to be dependent on running them only in the cloud. You can run them at the edge. And by doing that, you can meet your data residency requirements, your sovereignty requirements, you have that operational control. It can run connected and disconnected. So there's just so much more possibilities. You can take one of our existing task-specific models, or you can bring your own models depending on the industry segment that you're in. We also support the NVIDIA's AI Blueprint. We've done some really good demos at GTC. And one of the things I want to call out as part of the Lenovo partnership is, late summer, we kind of had this opportunity to tag team with our Azure, the big Azure, I call them, to announce the support for RTX Pro 6000 GPU. And of course, we are the infrastructure enabler. The hardware provider comes from Lenovo. So when we put the call in with the Lenovo team, it was just a matter of weeks to make this happen. But the pace at which the entire Lenovo team came together to make sure the RTX Pro 6000 GPU worked on Azure Local was just unbelievable. Like it was like we had a really good rhythm to make sure that the validation was happening. We could come up with a use case scenario. We had a test environment to build this on. The collaboration was awesome to make sure, and we announced the availability of the RTX at the NVIDIA GTC in Washington, D.C., along with Lenovo's hardware support on the ThinkAgile platform. So, it all just kind of complements on each other. So, and we did a demo on NVIDIA's video search and summarization. It's one of their AI blueprint. So, we're not here to say that you must only run Azure AI models. Like, it really opens up the possibility. Like, you can run NVIDIA's models. Like, you can bring your own models. There's so many. I mean, the pace in which the models that are growing in the AI Foundry catalog, I think right now it's like 11,000 plus models that are there. And anything that is not restricted by license to only run in the public cloud, you can bring it to the edge and really kind of, the world is your oyster in AI innovation.
Awesome. Are you seriously thinking about partying only with Lenovo? Because Lenovo has been so innovative in bringing all of these capabilities to you.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool, awesome. Evan, what do you see in terms of AI innovation in the manufacturing processes? Do you see a requirement there?
I can see we are currently exploring and finding business cases for IA, and I can mention that we are currently working on OEE, overall equipment efficiency, predictive maintenance, and vision camera initiatives. This is solutions that will help our machines run more stable and efficient, and it will also help us reduce waste and environmental impact. We now have a modern solution that can facilitate for future initiatives. So that's good, and yeah, really excited to learn about the new GPU capabilities.
This is amazing. This kind of truly paints the picture on what's possible, especially when you have the right hardware and the right cloud stack coming together. So, Meena, any final thoughts?
I mean, if I have to just summarize everything that we talked today, our focus is, making sure customers have a seamless migration path. And as part of that decision making, we want it to be easy for them, low cost for them, and efficient for them. I think that is the foundation on everything that we build. The next thing for me is, how can I help customers take advantage of the Azure innovations at the edge? And that means, providing the right platform, partnering with our right OEM hardware so that we can allow the ecosystem for customers to be successful in that space. And then the next thing is, just being in the ride with our customers for the AI innovation. We learn with them and we try to empower them with the right tools for them to be the cutting edge leader here.
Awesome. Stuart, can you bring us home with your final thoughts?
I'll do my best. I think there's been so much tremendous stuff announced this week in multiple sessions and keynote, and so we're super happy to be part of it. I think the excitement, for us as an infrastructure provider, someone told me a few weeks ago, hey, infrastructure is cool again. I don't know if that's true, but like for us, it's a great time for us in the industry to be able to innovate and to provide value. And at the end of the day, a lot of what we want to do is just make the infrastructure invisible to you. right? Because your AI scientists, your developers don't want to worry about that infrastructure. And so part of our partnership is key, is just making that happen, right? So working with Meena and her team to make Azure Local the easiest to manage, the fastest to deploy, and to deliver a positive ROI for your business. Because at the end of the day, that's really what we're here for, right? That's what we're all here for, is to deliver a positive ROI, to satisfy our customers better, and be competitive and win in the market.
Awesome. All right. I think probably it's the right time to kind of open it up for Q&A. So we have David and Brian on the floor running around with the mics. So if any of you have any questions for the panelists, please raise your hand. They're going to, run into you and hand over the mic. Yeah. Anybody? Yes, sir. There you go.
Sure. Yeah, so the disaggregated storage is definitely of interest to our group as well. Is that an open feature to multiple storage providers? Is it exclusive to Lenovo, specific to this model of storage array?
Yeah, so for Azure Local, we give customers a choice to partner with the industry-leading storage providers. Lenovo is one of the leading providers. We've heard a lot of customers wanting to bring their ThinkSystem or use ThinkSystem as part of the Azure Local deployment. But we don't restrict customers in terms of their choice of storage solutions. We do deep integration with the partner solutions that customers want.
Are there any other sessions that go over the architecture of how all of that works?
Yeah, there is a session later today, what's new in Azure Local, where we're going to go into more details of some of the capabilities that Stuart and I shared about, and we'll go into other options as well. Like, for example, the choice of fiber channel that is supported now, and then we'll be working on 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and NFS at a later point in time. Like, it's all going to be driven by customer feedback. So we're prioritizing where we see the most demand, and we're prioritizing the partners where we see the most demand as well.
Okay, great. And one last question. NVMe over Fabrics, is that supported with?
After 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀.
After 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Thank you. As you guys know, in some countries, it's forbidden to store data outside in the country to be compliant with the law. And some small businesses are not big enough to buy hardware and want to be on cloud. So they want to be hosted in local service provider. How do you see the new features and Azure Local roadmap fit into local service provider that would use this technology to host their small businesses customers?
Stuart, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I think service providers, small service providers are a big customer set for Lenovo. And so I think for customers who are too small maybe to have it on-prem, I think it opens a world of possibilities for those service providers, because being able to expand their storage footprint will make them more efficient and more capable to support you, right? So it gives them kind of unlimited flexibility on how much data they can provide. But like our storage provides strong multi-tenancy and copy services. So for them, it helps them carve up that external storage and make it a more efficient provider for Azure Local that they're delivering to the end customers like you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
So continue on the same question here. How about the multi-tenant support from Azure Local side?
Yeah, so this is a very common question that we get from our customers. We think about multi-tenancy through the lens of workload boundaries, where Azure Local can run in multiple clusters, and each cluster can be dedicated to a single customer or a single business unit for a customer. It is not a solution to compete with the cloud, where you get true elasticity and you're able to only share capacity with slice and dice the capacity to the most minimum, because that adds a lot of complexity when you're on-prem with capacity management, reservation, and then billing and all of those things. So we define multi-tenancy through the lens of these islands of compute, which are logically bordered by single clusters. And these clusters can be really big. This week we announced that we are expanding the scale point for Azure Local. Like, you can start with a single node or just a handful of nodes. You can grow into like clusters within hyperconverged and bring your SAN storage or add more SAN storage if your workload needs a storage-based expansion. Or if you need higher compute, you can go into multi-rack scale deployment as well, which is backed by SAN as well. So those islands of compute have different scale points to meet the needs, but we're not trying to compete against Azure Local, where you have more hosting capability and sharing across all the different customers.
These are great questions. Anyone else? Still got some time. Don't be shy.
Hi, I got here late. Sorry if my question has been covered. So with AI integration, is there any kind of innovation in migration of workload to the Azure Local, or is it based on Azure Migrate tool?
So right now, the demand we see for migration has been predominantly VM-based. And so the Azure Migrate allows migrating VMs from on-prem to Azure Local. That's the agentless rehosting. You don't need to rewrite code. It's just like a lift and shift experience while all the data remains on-prem. There's nothing leaving the customer's jurisdiction. We're starting to kind of expand that to look into how customers can migrate Kubernetes-based applications into Azure Local as well. And then, like, in that space, like, we see where the demand is coming in. Like, we are not seeing demand where customers have existing on-prem AI deployment that they want to bring into Azure Local. Majority of the deployment are, we want to come into Azure Local so we can take advantage of the AI innovation happening with Azure. So we want to kind of have that foundation that is Arc-enabled, having that access to Azure to take advantage of all our, task-specific AI models like Video Indexer, EdgeRag, like all the open source models that are available in Foundry catalog. And this only will get more and more integrated with Azure Local. So this is a snapshot in time. This is not the end of our AI innovation. So, it all comes from what our customers want. So the more demand we hear, that's where we will go invest our research in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello? Sorry, wanted to follow on the question with the migration process. For service providers who use the Azure Stack Hub solution, would it be like on the roadmap of Azure Migrate to help those service providers adopt the Azure approach, the Azure Local approach with the silos clusters, with helping them with the migration process, like integrate in Azure Migrate source of Azure Stack Hub destination Azure Local? That way, it will be easier to adopt the new approach.
Yeah. So one of the key feature differentiation for Azure Stack Hub is the ability to run it completely disconnected. A lot of our customers use that. So that was also the reason why we started on this journey of Azure Local disconnected operations much before even the sovereignty thing became, very popular is not the right word, but top of mind for a lot of customers. So it is currently in preview, and we were planning to go into GA early next year. And as part of the GA, we are building tooling to allow customers to migrate their workloads from Hub to Azure Local. So stay tuned, you'll get more details. We'll be publishing it out. We have some internal tooling that we have done, and we've shared with MVPs for like first glance feedback, and we've taken that feedback and kind of improving on that experience for customers.
That's a great question. Thank you. We have time for one last question. Yep.
Hello. So I know that the load balancing mechanism in AKS is currently not available. I know that it will be GA next release. Can I know when it will be available? And also, probably I missed, if you can summarize the main new features that you are going to release in the next GA. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm going to make a comment here. anytime when we share roadmap with our customers, even in the slide I put down like shared under NDA, and it is a snapshot in time that you cannot hold me accountable if those dates change in the future. So on that spirit, I cannot give you a set date that you can hold me accountable to say, like Meena said, it's going to be available in March next year, and it is not available. So we are working to getting it into general availability early next year. When exactly is something like early as in, I don't want to say it's first half of next year, but like maybe Q1 of next year is what we are aspiring towards. If we don't identify any big issues or gaps, that's when we'll be able to bring in software load balancer as part of our SDN configurations.
All right, I'm afraid we'll have to stop there. But just to kind of quickly wrap it up, right? So Evan, thank you so much for sharing all your experiences, and Meena and Stuart for sharing valuable insights there. So we do have the Azure Local session coming up. That's by Meena and David Perron. So please don't forget to attend that, because it's going to be in this building. It's on the second floor.
I think so.
Yep, it's on the second floor.
It kept moving around. Level 2, room 2007. So
yep.
Right behind, below here.
All right, and the next one is, oh, thank you. The next one is, those of you who have not had a chance to visit the Lenovo booth, I strongly urge you to do so. That we got some exciting demos lined up. So please visit the Lenovo booth. That's in Mascon South, 1141. All right, thanks everyone. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.